Hey yo, welcome back to my channel. I hope we're all doing okay. If you haven't already, go watch my last upload. I've been trying to upload more frequently, but with a new baby as a first time mom, it's kind of hard. This video is long overdue. I'm going to be telling y'all about my labor and delivery story. I have no idea where to start because it's honestly kind of chaotic, but let's try. I went into labor and I didn't know. My amniotic fluid sac, it had a tear in it and I didn't know. Let's go back to when I contacted my doula because I was telling her like, oh, I was having all these contractions. So we thought either they were fake contractions or it was like the real thing, but they weren't so close together. And she was like, maybe soon you will actually go into labor or whatever, like your booty gonna break. So I said, all right. And she had me keep track of what was going on. And this is probably like 1 or 2 weeks or a week and a half before my due date. My due date was January 31st. That's when I was supposed to have my son. Let's just say that did not happen. Last week of January, I think I was about 40 weeks and like 7 days or whatever. Because, yeah, that same week I became 41 weeks, right? Because I had my son at 41 weeks and 3 days. So I went to my husband's job. I was walking hella crazy. I'm 9 months pregnant. You know, I have all this burst of energy, hardly sleep. I have this need for nesting. I want to do all these things. And I really wanted my son to come on his due date. So I was dancing a lot. I did a lot of squats. I had a lot of sex. And still nothing worked. So I was like, you know what? He's just going to come when he wants to come. But around January 30th, I was peeing a lot, like way often than normal. And I was talking to my mom and she's like, are you sure you're not in labor? And I was like, I don't know, girl. Like, I never had a baby before. So I also told my doula and she's like, oh, you're okay. As long as you're not like bleeding or anything, you're okay. So the both of them advised me to wear a pad to see or track how much liquids that I was losing. Now, mind you, weeks before I had lost my mucus plug. It came back and then I lost my mucus plug again, like in the same last week of January. That was indications that baby boy was getting ready to come out. So, that happened. Then, what was it? February 2nd, I literally had woke up crying because I had contractions. Like I don't know, that pain felt real different. So I contacted my doula and she was like, oh, time your contractions, use this app to time them. And I did. So I'm timing my contractions, they're getting more frequent, and I'm like crying every second, like fake crying, because I'm like, to my husband, this hurts. And he's worried. And he's like, do you think it's time? And I'm like, child, I don't know. So my doula rushed over to my apartment and we started timing them together. And I was like so nauseous and I was just like, I don't like this feeling. Like I can't do this. So they got more frequent and more intense. We rushed to the hospital that I decided to deliver at. I did most of my laboring at home, but I still ended up in the hospital for over 24 hours just for the laboring process. So here's when it starts to get crazy. My whole pregnancy, I didn't really go to the doctors like that because I use my discernment and I didn't think that I needed to go to the doctors as often. So I didn't have prenatal care for like the last 3 or 4 weeks of my pregnancy because the clinic that I was going to, decided to cancel me as a patient because I wasn't going to the appointments, and I said no to blood transfusions if needed. I didn't want any of that. So I declined that. And they were upset. The physician I had was upset. Now, I went to the hospital and they were asking me, like, hey, what's your prenatal care? Who were you with? So I told them what happened. And they were like, okay, let's see how far dilated you are. Turns out I was 4 centimeters dilated. And they were like, how long has your wire been broken? And I know it's been over 72 hours, but I told them about 48 hours now, like 24, 48 hours. It was like, okay, we're gonna admit you and we're gonna get this jumping. Now, I got admitted. I was in the labor and delivery room, and when I tell you, these contractions were crazy. These contractions were crazy. My husband was there. My doula was there. Like, I couldn't even eat the food that I had. I couldn't even drink nothing to how sick my stomach was. And I intended to fully do everything natural. So we gave them our birth plan and everything. And I made some adjustments to it. But it was only like one or two things that I adjusted because push come to shove, I had to do it. So for hours, I was not dilating any further. And mind you, my water has been broken for over 72 hours now. So the contractions kept getting worse. The pain was just getting worse. It was becoming unbearable, even with the support that I had from my husband, my doula, and my mom. So at this point, I said, I need some type of pain management. So I got morphine. I did 1 round of morphine thinking it would help. It did not help. And that was when I started to regret asking for pain management. I regretted the morphine. They put the morphine in me. It barely helped. I was exhausted and I was hungry and I was like, I need this over with. So morphine didn't work. They kept asking me when they can start on anything. So they started me on Pitocin. I had it at the lowest level because that's what I could bear naturally. And I tried to bear this childbirth pain so bad, but I just could not. I just could not bear the pain any longer. Naturally, I have a low pain tolerance. So it was just like, how am I going to do this? You know what I mean? For hours, it was a low Pitocin level. So I was getting tired, and then they checked me, and then they said, oh, you're 6 meters dilated. Barely dilated enough from the look of 4 centimeters that I was when I was admitted. It's like nighttime now, So I was exhausted. The pain was unbearable. I was just crying. So I was telling like my mom, my husband, that like I don't want to do this no more. I don't. I just want this baby out, but I want him out in the safest way. And they were like, yeah, if you still haven't given birth yet, there can be some complications or whatever, infections, because your water has been broken for a minute and you need to get him out. We need to up your Pitocin. I said, no, I can't manage the Pitocin. Like, what are some other pain management, options available? So there was like the only thing left is epidural. So I said, you know what, come back. I need to consult with my support team. So my mom really didn't want me to have an epidural. My husband was standing on business and he was like, no epidural. But I tried to stand on business too and have no epidural. But here's the thing. I knew in my mind that I couldn't further bear this pain. Like, I was Like physically, my body was exhausted, overly exhausted, and I just had no more energy. I needed rest. I needed something. Then my mind mentally, I was like, you know what, I'm a champ. I could do this, but it wasn't enough. So my husband was like upset and annoyed because the doctor was like, no, I need to speak to my patient. I'm not talking to you and things like that. So that rubbed him extremely the wrong way. My mom was against the epidural and she was like, Tyra, no, I don't want you to do that. You already put a lot of drugs in your body. No wonder why he's not coming out. I felt extremely bad when she told me that because I thought I was making the best decision. And I tried to make the best decision, but when you're under the influence and you have like you're going through a lot emotionally, you don't make the best decision. So I needed my husband's support and I wanted him to be for the epidural so bad for so many reasons. I had my very valid reasons as to getting an epidural, and at that point I needed an epidural. I got the epidural. I decided to get the epidural. I told the nurse and they came back. They said, okay, we gotta wait for the anesthesiologist. He was a very nice black man. And before they gave me the epidural, my mom spoke to the guy. He was like, if you let anything happen to my daughter, me and you's gonna have problems, you know. Please take care of her. I'm scared. And I know she's going to be okay, you know, by the grace of the Most High, but I need you to ensure that she's okay on your end. He said, all right, you know, I'm going to take care of your daughter. He came back and then they were like, okay, everybody has to exit the room now. You know, we about to sterilize everything and give her this epidural. The guy was talking to me and I was telling him that I'm actually scared. The whole time I'm like praying in my mind. I'm like, Most High, if this is for me, let it be for me. If it's not, don't let it happen. And it went successful. He was talking to me through it and you know he answered my questions. He had patience with me and then I got the epidural. It was amazing. I felt great. I was able to get the 2 hour of sleep, and guess what, I ended up giving birth to him. But that whole time that I was in labor and I was trying to be dilated, they kept checking my blood pressure. They kept checking, you know, my sugar levels and everything because on my report from the clinic, it was saying that I had gestational diabetes and they were concerned. They wanted to check with me. Now, I woke up from my 2 hour nap and my mom was there, my husband was there, and they were like, how you feeling? And I was like, I don't feel anything from the waist below, but I feel good. Like I'm awake now. I have some energy. And I was like, guys, y'all need to get the doctor because I think I'm about to have this baby. I have this urge to push. So the nurse and the doctor was like, no, the nurse was like, oh, wait, let me get the doctor to see how far dilated you are. So I said, y'all better hurry up right now because I'm about to have this baby one way or another. So the doctor came back, she checked me, she's like, you're 9 centimeters dilated. So I'm like, no. What do you mean? I have this urge to push. My body's naturally telling me to push. And they were like, okay, don't push yet. Don't push yet. So they waited a couple of minutes and then they came back and checked me. And they was like, you're fully dilated. Now, in that whole time that I was sleeping, whatever, they were preparing for his arrival, like in front of me. So they set up his little bassinet thing. They set up, you know, just everything to collect whatever. So they was like, it's time. And then they propped up my legs. They told my mom to hold one leg. They told my husband to hold the other. And there was like, on the count of 3, push. So I was pushing. Then I stopped. I was like, I feel like I'm taking a big dookie on myself. Like, what is this? And there's like, you're doing so good. Push again. So I pushed. I did one big push. But then I stopped because something in my mind is like, stop. And they were like, I see his head. Look at all that hair. Push. And I said, no. I'm tired right now. And I had to stop pushing because I feel like I'm tearing. And then I took my little break. His head was like halfway in, halfway out. So he ended up with a cone shaped head, but they're like, you're doing a really good job, push. So I did another big push and they got him. They grabbed him out and everything happened so fast. I was like, what the heck just happened? You know what I mean? I was like, what the heck just happened? Like, in my mind, I was telling myself, I can't do this. How am I gonna get this little human out? Like, he probably gonna be like 8 pounds or something. How this gonna work? So, they took him and they immediately, hush, Papa. They immediately fling him on me. But before they flung him on me, I saw him and he had his head up, eyes open, looking around. And I was like, what is this? He looked like some little alien. So they fling him on me. They fling him on my breast. And I know he was hungry. But that latching, it wasn't a proper latch. But we was working on it and he was drinking, he was hungry, my breast was full and all these things. Like, it was a lot that had happened. And while that's happening and I'm breastfeeding him, I was scared of him to like hold him. And I was just looking at him like, why you look purple, why you look like an alien? And they were holding the umbilical cord and my husband was like, no, we're gonna wait. Did you just poop on me? My husband was like, no, we're gonna wait until it goes white. So we waited, but the doctor, the recurring doctor was like, oh, no, we need to cut it now, blah, blah, blah. And my husband said, no, wait. So we waited, and then my husband cut the umbilical cord. They asked him if he wanted to, and he said yes. So he did. Before they cut the umbilical cord, they was like, this is such a pretty umbilical cord. It was a pretty lavender color. They said that it was so beautiful, and they said that he was a very beautiful, strong little boy. So that had happened, and then right after, there was like, we have to deliver the placenta, So they said, do one big push. I did one big push, and it came out, and I was like, is it out? And they was like, yeah, because they had to stick their hand up inside me to help it come out while I pushed, and it was the most excruciating pain of contractions, and that hurt so bad. And then after I started bleeding out, I lost about I want to say like 600 ounces of blood, and they anticipated that, so they had everything on hand, but they didn't think it would really happen. And then they're like, oh, you have a micro tear. So I had a tear, and that's why I stopped pushing, because I felt like I was tearing. It sounds weird, but I felt like I was tearing, and that so happened to be. And they quickly inserted a pill up into my rectum, and then they quickly stitched me up, and that pain hurt too, but it was like a pinch. After that, I didn't really care, because I was like, I had just had my baby boy. Like, I really had my baby boy. Like, honestly, it was so emotional. Like, I started crying. He was crying. And I'm like, oh no, baby, it's so okay. Like, I didn't think I could love someone so much and didn't even meet them yet. And my mom's like, so and so, keep calling. Every minute my sister calling to ask if he cute or if I had the baby. And it was just a lot. So after they stitched me up and cleaned me up, I asked them, like, did I take a doodle on them or whatever? They said yeah. So I felt so embarrassed, but I was like, I don't got no shame tree no more. I just had a baby, Right, Papa? Yeah. Yeah. Now we got to talk about after the delivery. So after the delivery, I was put on magnesium, 24 hours of magnesium, because I had preeclampsia or eclampsia, whatever they call it. And my blood pressure was high, so for 24 hours they monitored my blood pressure, and they kept giving me magnesium and everything for 24 hours. They removed me. The epidural was wearing off, so they moved me into the postpartum room upstairs, and it was nice. I got snacks and I tried to sleep, but it didn't work. Every second there are people coming in, whether it was to check on him or to check on me. And then it would always be at times where he was sleeping or I finally got to sleep. Now, at the time, he was doing this cluster feeding thing, and it was new for me, of course, as a new mother, but it was really hard because I wasn't sure if my milk came in, but it indeed came in because I was leaking all over the place. And when he was just born, I latched him on, but I also had collected colostrum. So I had six um 6 tubes of colostrum that I gave him when he was born. He finished all of that, the ones that I collected from home, and I was still getting colostrum. So at the hospital, they gave me syringes and I started hand expressing. I didn't have a pump. I asked them if they had a pump, but come to find out they did, but they didn't have the correct flange sizes. So I'm a 18 millimeter. They only had like 24, 30, things like that. 27. So I just had to hand express, and every second he was hungry. You know, his stomach is tiny. He only could drink 1 milliliter of colostrum of milk. So we did that. I kept hand expressing, and my husband actually fed him. They kept asking me at the hospital if I wanted to formula feed because they said my milk won't come in yet, and I was like, y'all sure about that? The Most High said it did. And y'all gonna tell me that it did not? Like, are you deranged in your mind? I said no, because I knew for sure I was standing on business with the no formula. Because if my body can make the milk, why not? What happened, Pop? Okay. So I was like, if my body can make the milk, what's the sense in doing formula, you know? Like, I want to try it and see if it works for me. What happened, Pa? Okay, baby. Alright. Yes. 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 What happened? So they were shocked when I started hand expressing and all the milk started coming out. They were like, "You have so much milk, you can feed the whole nursery right now." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna feed my baby." They also kept asking me if they wanted me to if they could take my baby so I could sleep, and I said no. My baby's gonna stay here with my husband and I, you know. So every time we would put him down to sleep, somebody would come in, turn on lights, and wake him up. He would wake up and he would start crying. They would bother me, and I'm like, yo, I just had a baby. Y'all can't give me some time to just rest, not even for 1 hour. So my husband took over and allowed me to rest. He didn't rest at all, so I could sleep some. And then we like switched off. Then they came to do his hearing test and his body test and all those things. They said he passed and that he's a really strong boy. And I was like, okay, thank you, that works. Then they kept checking in on me. They kept checking my blood pressure every second and all of that. I wasn't really eating like that, but I was like really stressed out, and that's what was spiking my blood pressure. It was because they were stressing me out about everything, and I had to stay an extra day. So yeah, guys, that is my labor and deliver story. It was very chaotic, but I did have support from my mom. I had support from both my doulas. I had support from my husband, big support from him. And I don't know what I would have done, but I'm going to tell you from now, I don't regret getting an epidural. It allowed me to safely deliver my son vaginally, and if I had to, I would do it all over again. Now, for when I have more children in the future, I'm definitely going to try and do it naturally because I would love to have a home birth, but only if it's in my will, if the Most High permits it. But thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down below, or you can message me on Instagram or on TikTok. So I'll see y'all in my next video.